Okay. I'm gonna see if this is working. Let's see. I'm gonna see if it's working. Hold on. Let's see. Yep. Okay. It's working. All right. I guess I'll continue off from last time. So last time we read chapter 3 in the quotations from Chairman Mao, which was, I believe it was Socialism and Communism. So now we're going to do chapter 4, which is a really important one. I think, especially in today's times, is the correct handling of contradictions among the people. I mean, even though this is applied to China, I mean, we can still learn from it. But, blindly follow none of it. So here we go. We are confronted by two types of social contradictions: those between ourselves and the enemy, those among the people and themselves. The two are totally different in nature. To understand these two different types of contradictions correctly, we must first to be clear what is meant by people and what is meant by the enemy. At the present stage, the period of building socialism, the classes, strata, and social groups which favor a support for the cause of socialist construction all come within the category of the people, while social forces and groups which resist the socialist revolution are hostile to or sabotage the socialist construction are all enemies of the people. In the conditions prevailing in China today, the contradictions among the people comprise the contradiction within the working class, contradictions within the peasantry, contradictions within the intelligentsia, and contradictions between the working class and peasantry. The peasantry. And the peasants on the one hand, and the peasants on the one hand, and intellectuals on the other. The contradiction between the workers, a contradiction between there's a contradiction between workers and the peasants, and on the one hand, and the intellectuals on the other. The contradictions between working class and other sections of the working people on the one hand, and national bourgeoisie on the other. The contradictions within the national bourgeoisie and so on. Our people's government is one that genuinely represents the people's interests. It is the government that serves the people, and nevertheless there are certain contradictions between the government and the people. These include contradictions on the interests of the state, the interests of the collective, and the interests of the individual, between the democracy and centralism, between leadership and led, and the contradiction between a rising bureaucratic style of work certain government workers in their relations to the masses. All these are also contradictions among people. Generally speaking, the basic identity of interest underlies the contradictions among the people. The contradictions between ourselves and the enemy are antagonistic contradictions within the ranks of the people. The contradictions among the working people are non-antagonistic. Okay. Contradictions between ourselves and the enemy are antagonistic contradictions. Okay, so I'll reread the quote because I get confused sometimes. I'm sorry. The contradictions between ourselves and the enemy are antagonistic contradictions. Within the ranks of the people, the contradictions among the working people are non-antagonistic, while those between the exploited and exploiting classes have a non-antagonistic. Been exploited and have a non-antagonistic aspect. How about non-antagonistic aspect in addition to an antagonistic aspect. It's kind of interesting. He's basically saying like there's contradictions between like in every level. There's always going to be contradictions, but there's some of them are not going to be like the enemy being the imperialists and so on. So the imperialists and the comprador capitalists are the enemy, and the national bourgeoisie and the proletariat and the peasantry are the people. So, if looking at today's day, the mass majority of workers in the United States are either the actual working class of the United States, are actually really either we're going to be right wing or not apolitical. And sorry. Yeah. So anyway. So if we keep attacking those who are really should be our friends in some way or level, like people who disagree with us on I don't know, gay marriage or abortion, we just disagree on that, and then that draws the line between us, then that we're not going to get anywhere. We should align people who disagree with us, but we should have common class interests too, yeah. So I'm going to keep reading. In the political life of our people, how should it be distinguished from wrong? In one word and actions. On the basis of the principles of our Constitution, the will of the overwhelming majority of our people, and the political common political positions, which we have proclaimed on various occasions by our political parties and groups, we consider that, broadly speaking, the criteria should be as follows. Words and actions should help to unite, not divide. The people of our various nationalities, they should be beneficial and not harmful to socialist transformation and socialist construction. They should help to consolidate and not undermine or weaken the people's democratic dictatorship. They should help consolidate, not undermine or weaken democratic centralism. They should help to strengthen and not discard or weaken the leadership of the Communist Party. They should be beneficial and not harmful to the international socialist unity and the unity of the peace-loving people of the world. Of this 6 criteria, the most important are the socialist path and the leadership of the party. The question of suppressing counter-revolutionaries is one of the struggle between ourselves and the enemy. The contradictions between ourselves and the enemy, and among the contradictions, among the people, there are some who see this question in a somewhat different light. 2 kinds of persons hold views different from ours. Those with a rightist way of thinking may make no distinction between ourselves and the enemy, and they take the enemy for our own people. They regard as friends and persons whom the broad masses regard as enemies. With a left way of thinking, they magnify contradictions between ourselves and the enemy to such an extent that they take certain contradictions among the people and contradictions with the enemies, and regard as counter-revolutionaries persons who are actually not counter-revolutionaries. Both these views are wrong. Neither can lead to correct handling of the question of suppressing counter-revolutionaries to a correct assessment of this work. So that was interesting. So basically, what Mao was saying was we had right people in today's day and age, people who are right-wing deviations are people like BreadTube, and who see people who see Liz Cheney as their ally against the fascist Trump wing of the Republican Party, which is really ridiculous because Liz Cheney is a warmonger and I think was it her father, or I think it was her father who was Dick Cheney, and he was responsible for these horrendous crimes. So why would you ally with that person? Then we have the left one. Then we have left deviationism, which is very similar. We ally with we only ally with the super revolutionary people of the world, who are ultra left, maybe the PCP in Peru, or Naxalites in India, or something like that. That's the only true revolutionary way. And they're not very revolutionary. They're really reactionary, in my opinion. Like, yeah, I mean, there's some people who are going to disagree with that, but too bad. That's just reality. The PCP and Naxalites are reactionary. And PCP, I mean the Shining Path. I do not mean the current president of Peru, who is actually doing some good things. So let's continue. Qualitatively different contradictions can only be resolved by qualitatively different methods. For instance, contradictions between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie is resolved by the method of the socialist revolution. Contradiction between the great masses of people and the feudal system is resolved by the method of democratic revolution. Contradictions between the colonies and imperialism is resolved by the system of method of national revolutionary war. The contradiction between the working class and the peasant class in the socialist society is resolved by method of collectivization and mechanization in agriculture. Contradictions within the Communist Party is resolved by the method of criticism and self-criticism. The contradictions between society and the nature is resolved by method of developing the productive forces. Between the society and nature is resolved by developing unproductive forces. Since the principle of using different methods to resolve different contradictions is one which Marxist-Lenninists must strictly observe. Since they are different in nature, the contradictions between ourselves and the enemy and contradiction among the people must be resolved by different methods. To put it briefly, the former are the matter of drawing a clear distinction between ourselves and the enemy, and the matter of drawing a clear distinction between right and wrong. It is, of course, true that the distinction between ourselves is true. Distinction. True. I lost my place. I'm sorry. I lost my place. The distinction between it is true that the distinction between ourselves and the enemy is also a matter of right and wrong. For example, the question of who is right, we, the domestic and foreign reactionaries, with the imperialist, sub-feudalist, bureaucrat capitalist, feudalist, and the bureaucrat capitalist, is also a matter of right and wrong. But in its different category from the question of right and wrong among people, but it's in a different category of right and wrong among people. The only way to settle the question of an ideological nature of a controversial issue among the people is by the democratic method of discussion and of criticism, persuasion, and education, and not by the method of coercion and repression. To be able to carry on the production and studies efficiently, to arrange their lives properly, The people want people want their government and those in charge of production and of cultural and educational organizations to issue appropriate orders of an obligatory nature. It is common sense. It's common sense that the main maintenance of public order would okay. It is common sense that the maintenance of public order would be impossible without such an administrative regulations. Administrative orders and the method of persuasion and education complement each other, resulting in contradictions among the people. Even administrative regulations, even administrative regulations for the maintenance of public order must be accompanied by the persuasion and education. For in many cases, regulation alone will not work. Inevitability by the bourgeoisie, the petty bourgeoisie, will give expression to their own ideologies. Inevitably, they will stubbornly express themselves on political and ideological questions by every possible means. You cannot expect them to do otherwise. We should not use the method of suppression and prevent them from expressing themselves. We should not of suppression and expressing themselves, but should not allow them to do so. At the same time, argue with them, direct appropriate criticism at them. We must undoubtedly criticize wrong ideas of every description. It certainly would not be right to refrain from criticism. It look along while wrong ideas spread unchecked and allow them to monopolize in the field. Mistakes must be criticized and pointedly fought whenever they crop up. However, such criticism should not be dogmatic and the metaphysical method should not be used, but efforts should be made to apply a dialectical method, which what is needed is scientific analysis and convincing argument. So that's very interesting. He's basically saying not to someone joined us. He's basically saying in this quote, chapter 4, if you're okay, never mind, he left. Basically he's saying we should allow them to express themselves, but we should direct criticism as well at wrong ideas, like petty bourgeois ideas. So it's pretty interesting. Like people say, Mao killed everyone who he disagreed with, and it's clearly like what he wrote right here. It's clearly not the case that he killed everyone he disagreed with. Many people he disagreed with, he actually got kicked out of the party at one point. So, yeah. So, anyway, let's continue. To criticize the people's shortcomings is necessary, but in doing so, we must truly take the stand of the people and speak out wholeheartedly eagerness to protect and educate them. To treat comrades like enemies, to go over the stand of the enemy. Contradictions and struggles are universal and absolute. But the method of resolving contradictions, that is, the forms of struggle, differ according to the difference in nature of contradictions. Some contradictions are characterized by open antagonism, others are not. In accordance with the concrete development of things, some contradictions which were originally non-antagonistic develop into antagonistic ones. Others which are originally antagonistic develop into non-antagonistic ones. In ordinary circumstances, contradictions among the people are not antagonistic, but if they are not handled properly, we relax our vigilance and lower our guard, antagonism may arise. In a socialist country, a development of this kind is usually only a localized and temporary phenomenon. The reason is that the system of exploitation by man has been abolished, and the interests of the people basically are the same. In our country, the contradictions between the working class and the national bourgeoisie belongs to the category of the contradictions among the people. By and large, the class struggle between the two is a class struggle within the ranks of the poor people. Because the Chinese national bourgeoisie has a dual character in the period of bourgeois democratic revolution, it is both revolutionary and consolationist side to its character. In the period of socialist revolution, exploitation of the working class for profit constitutes one side of the character of the national bourgeoisie, while its support of the Constitution and its willingness to accept socialist transformation constitutes the other. The national bourgeoisie differs from the imperialists, the landlords, and the bureaucratic capitalists. The contradiction between the national bourgeoisie and the working class is one between the explorer and the exploited, and is by nature antagonistic. But in the contradictions of China, this antagonistic class contradiction can, if properly handled, be transformed into non-antagonistic one and be resolved by peaceful methods. However, it will change into contradictions between ourselves and the enemy if we do not handle it properly and do not follow the policy of uniting with and criticizing and educating the national bourgeoisie. If the national bourgeoisie did not accept this policy of ours, or if the The counter-revolutionary rebellion in Hungary in 1956, was a case of reactionaries inside a socialist country and league with the imperialists, attempting to achieve their conspiratorial aims by taking advantage of the contradictions among the people to the foment dissension and stir up disorder. This lesson of the Hungarian events merits attention. And I think that's the end of the chapter. Yep. So I think I'm going to go on to the next chapter, War and Peace. This should not be take too long. It's only about a couple pages, maybe. Actually, it's kind of long. Yeah, I think I'll read it. It's not too long. War is the highest form of struggle for resolving contradictions. When they have been developed into a certain stage between classes, nations, and nation-states or political groups, it has existed since the emergence of private property and of classes. War is a continuation of politics. In this sense, war is politics, and war itself is political action. Since the ancient times, there was never have been a war that didn't have a political character. But war, in its own particular characteristics, and in its sense, it cannot be equated with politics in general. War is the continuation of politics by other means. When politics develop to a certain stage beyond which it is cannot proceed by usual means, war breaks out into three obstacles from the way. When the obstacle is removed from our political aim attains, the war will stop. But if the obstacle is not completely swept away, the war will have to continue till the aim is fully accomplished. It can therefore be said that politics is war without bloodshed, and war is politics with bloodshed. Pretty interesting quote. History shows that wars are divided into two kinds, just and unjust. All wars that are progressive and are just are all wars that impede progress are unjust. We communists oppose all unjust wars and impede on progress. But we do not oppose progressive and just wars. Not only do we communists not oppose just wars, we absolutely participate in them. As for unjust wars, World War I is an instance where both sides fought for imperialist interests. Therefore, communists of the world firmly opposed that war. The way to oppose a war is to do everything possible to prevent it before it breaks out. And once it breaks out, to oppose a war with war, to oppose unjust war with a just war, whenever possible. Revolutions and revolutionary wars are inevitable in class society. Without them, it is impossible to accomplish anything in any leap in social development, and to overthrow the reactionary ruling classes, and and therefore impossible for the win to win political power. The Revolutionary War is an antitoxin, which not only eliminates the enemy's position, but also purges it of us or our own self. Every just revolutionary war is endowed with tremendous power and transformation. It can transform many things so clear that the way of the transformation, Sino-Japanese War will be transformed both China and Japan, providing the China perseveres in the war of resistance. War of resistance. Let's see, where is that? War of resistance in the United Front. The old Japan will surely be transformed into a new Japan, and the old China into a new China, and everything else both in both China and Japan will be transformed during and after the war. Now here's a quote that I don't personally agree with 100%, but it's mainly in context. It makes sense though. Let's see. Every communist must grasp the truth. Political power goes out of the barrel of a gun. So basically, it kind of sounds like he's advocating for like every instance of violence, but he's really talking about in this case of China, where basically like the Kuomintang and the Japanese imperialists, like the only way is to fight with guns in that situation. I prefer a peaceful transition to socialism, distributism, whatever you want to call it. The seizure of power by armed forces, the settlement of the issue by war is the central test, the highest form of revolution. The Marxist-Lannist principle of revolution holds good universally for China and other countries. Without armed struggle, there is neither the proletariat, nor the people, nor the Communist Party would have any standing at all. In China, it would be impossible for the revolution to triumph. In these years, 18 years finally of the party, the development and consolidation and Bolshevization of our party and proceed in the midst of revolutionary wars. Without armed struggle, the Communist Party, who would surely not be what it is today. Comrades throughout the party must never forget the experience which we have paid in blood. Okay. According to the Marxist theory of the state, the army is the chief component of state power. Whoever wants to seize and retain the state power must have a strong army. Some people ridicule us for advocates of the opponents of war. Yes, we are advocates of opponents of revolutionary war. That is good, not bad, but it is Marxist. The guns of the Russian Communist Party create socialism. We shall create a democratic republic. Experience in class struggle in the era of imperialism teaches us that it is only by the power of the gun, that the working class and the laboring masses can defeat the armed bourgeoisie and landlords. In this sense, we say only with guns the whole world be transformed. We are advocates of the abolition of war. We don't want war, but war can only be abolished through war. In order to get rid of the gun, it is necessary to take up the gun. War is this monster mutual slaughter among men will finally be eliminated by progress of human society, and in the not too distant future too. There is only one way to eliminate it. That is to oppose war with war. To oppose counter-revolutionary war with revolutionary war. To oppose national counter-revolutionary war with a national revolutionary war. And to oppose counter-revolutionary class war with a revolutionary class war. When human society advances to the point let's see, just unjust or just. The mankind. Okay. I lost my place. Sorry. When mankind advances to the point where classes are eliminated, there will be no more wars, counter-revolutionary or revolutionary, just or unjust. That the art will be the era of perpetual peace for mankind. Our city of the law of revolutionary war, springing from the desire of eliminate all wars. Here lies distinction between us communists and all exploiting classes. Our country and other socialist countries want peace. So do the peoples of all countries of the world. The ones who crave war and do not want peace are certain monopoly capitalist groups in the handful of imperialist countries, which depend on the aggression of for their profits. Oops. Okay, that's not what's supposed to happen. Okay. Oops. Okay. To achieve a lasting world peace, we must further develop our friendship and cooperation with the fraternal countries in the socialist camp, and strengthen the solidarity with all the peace-loving countries. We must endeavor to establish normal diplomatic relations on the basis of mutual respect and for territorial integrity and sovereignty, and equally mutual benefit with countries willing to live together with us in peace. We must give active support for national independence and liberation movements in Asia, Africa, and America, as well as peace movements to just struggles in all the countries of the world. As for the imperialist countries, we should unite with the peoples and strive to coexist peacefully with those countries, do business with them, and prevent any possible war. But under no circumstances we should harbor any unrealistic notions about them. We desire peace. However, imperialists insist on fighting a war. We will have no alternative to take a firm resolution to fight and finish before we go before going on ahead with our construction. If you are afraid, if you are afraid of war day in and day out, what will you do if war eventually comes? If first I said what the east wind is prevailing over the west wind, war will not break out. Now I add explanations about both the situations in the case of war should break out. Both possibilities thus both possibilities that thus been taken into account. People all over the world are now discussing whether or not a third world war will break out. On this question, we must be mentally prepared to do some analysis. We firmly stand firmly for peace against war. But if imperials insist on unleashing another war, we should not be afraid of it. Our attitude towards on this question is the same as our attitude towards any disturbance. First, we are against it. Second, we are not afraid of it. The First World War was followed by the birth of the Soviet Union, with a population of 200 million. The Second World War was followed by the emergence of the socialist camp with a combined population of 900 million. If the imperialists insisting on launching a third world war, that will certainly it is certain that several hundred million more will turn to socialism, and then there will not be much room left on Earth for the imperialists. It is likely that the whole structure of imperialism will collapse. We're seeing that today. Make trouble, fail, make trouble again, fail again, till they're doomed. That is the logic of the imperialists and all reactionaries of all the world over. Dealing with the poor people's cause, they will never go against this logic. This is the Marxist law. Whenever the imperialists say imperialism is for, when we say imperialism is ferocious, we mean that in nature it will never change, and that the imperialists will never lay down their butcher knives, that they will never become Buddhas till they're doomed. Fight again, fail again. Fight again, fail again. Till their victory. That is the logic of the people and they will never go against this logic. This is another Marxist law. The Russian counter-revolution followed this law. And so has the Chinese People's Revolution. Just because we have one victory, we must never relax our vigilance against the frenzied plot for revenge of the imperialists and the running dog. So whoever relaxes their religions will disarm himself politically and land himself in passive position. The imperialists and the running dogs and Chinese reactionaries will not resign themselves to defeat in the land of China. They'll continue to gang up against the Chinese people in every possible way. For example, they will smuggle their agents into China, sow dissension, and make trouble. That is certain. They will never neglect these activities. Take another example, the imperialists incite the Chinese reactionaries even to throw their own forces to blockade China's ports. They will do this as long as possible. Furthermore, if they still hanker after adventures, they will soon send some of their troops invade and harass China's frontiers. This too is not impossible. We must take fully into account. And all this we must take fully into account. Okay. Check something. The world is progressing, and the future is bright. And no one can change this general trend of history. We should carry on constant propaganda among the people and on the facts of world progress and the bright future ahead that they will build their confidence in the victory. The commanders, fighters, and entire Chinese People Liberation Army absolutely must not relax in their will to fight. And not anything thinking that relaxes the will to fight belittles the enemy. Any thinking that relaxes the will to fight belittles the enemy and is wrong. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. So if you have any comments, leave them down below. I'll try to answer them, and hopefully you can understand me reading. I heard my voice before, and it's kind of annoying. So I don't know. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, this live stream, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.